The 20 most beautiful medieval castles in Italy to visit. Italy, with its immense historical heritage, is a land dotted with countless fortresses, and manors. Perched on mountain peaks, immersed in enchanted woods or overlooking the sea, the Italian castles there are thousands, each different and guardian of a unique charm. Witnesses to a long and complex history, these stone giants take us back to distant worlds, reenacting mythical fairy tales, bloody battles, and ancient legends. True architectural gems, medieval castles in Italy were the beating heart of the life of entire communities, centers of power and noble residences that dot the cities and villages throughout Italy. Today, unfortunately, many of these have been destroyed or reduced to ruins, but fortunately, many others stand the test of time, ready to be explored. Here is a selection of the 20 spectacular castles to visit in Italy, a journey from north to south to discover the most fascinating manors in our country. The 20 most beautiful castles in Italy that you absolutely must visit: Scaligero Castle00, Scaligera Fortress00, Aragonese Castle of Ischia, Castel dell'Ovo, Fortress00, Fort Diamante, Miramare Castle, Bard Castle, Castel Sant'Angelo, Torrechiara Castle, Brisighella Fortress, Castel del Monte, Albornozian Fortress of Spoleto, Pandone Castle of Venafro, Sforza Castle of Milan, Fénis Castle, Aragonese Castle of Otranto, Swabian Castle of Trani, Aci Castle, Ruffo Castle, Scaligero Castle of Malcasine, Veneto. On the Venetian shore of the Lake Garda stands a medieval castle that has enchanted even the poet Goethe, who wrote about it in his Journey to Italy. Although the first fortifications perhaps date back to Lombard times, the fortress of Malcasine owes its current appearance and name to the Della Scala family, who took possession of it in 1277. Declared a national monument, the castle today houses an interesting natural history museum. Inside, don't miss the Goethe Hall, set up in the old Austrian powder magazine, and the Lackaor, one of the oldest proto-historic settlements of Malcasine. Climbing the Rivellino Tower and platform, you can enjoy a wonderful panorama that embraces the village, Lake Garda, and the slopes of Mount Baldo. Scaligera Fortress of Sirmione, Lombardy. The Rocca. Scaligera of Sirmione is an extraordinary and magnificently preserved example of lake fortification. Built after the mid-14th century, it takes its name from the powerful Della Scala family, who dominated Verona and its territories between the 13th and 14th centuries. Entirely surrounded by the waters of Lake Garda, the castle boasts an intact dock, which once offered refuge to the Scaliger fleet. The walls and the three major towers have the characteristic dovetail battlements. A sad legend tells that on stormy nights, the soul of Ebengardo, an ancient lord of the castle, still wanders within its walls in desperate search of his beloved Aris, tragically killed by invaders. Aragonese Castle of Ischia, Campania. The Aragonese castle stands on a small volcanic rock island connected to the ancient village of Celsa, now Ischia Ponte, by a 220-meter-long masonry bridge. Founded in 474 BC by the tyrant Hero I of Syracuse, it was Alfonso of Aragon in 1441 who transformed it into the fortified citadel we admire today. Access is via a tunnel dug into the rock, once equipped with reservoirs for defense against enemies. The castle experienced its greatest splendor in the 16th century, housing nearly 1,900 families, as well as convents and churches. Here, in 1509, the wedding between Fernando Francesco d'Avalos and the poet Vittoria Colonna was celebrated. Today, among its paths, 25 centuries of history can be discovered, among churches, prisons, and lush gardens, culminating in a lookout offering breathtaking views of the Gulf. Castel dell'Ovo, Naples, Campania. Castel dell'Ovo, the oldest of Naples, stands on the islet of Megaris, the place where, according to legend, the Greeks who founded the city landed. Its curious name comes from an ancient legend, according to which the Latin poet Virgil, also considered a magician in the Middle Ages, hid a magical egg in the dungeons. This egg, locked in a cage, would have the power to keep the entire fortress standing. Its rupture would cause not only the collapse of the castle, but also a series of catastrophes for Naples. Having become a fortress with the Normans and a castle with the Angevins, today the building is a symbol of Neapolitan history and a privileged panoramic point over the Gulf and Vesuvius. Rocca Calascio00, Abruzzo, situated at 1460 meters above sea level in the Gran Sasso National Park. Rocca Calascio00 is one of the highest fortifications in Italy. This medieval castle, built entirely of white stone, dominates the Torino Valley and the Novelli Plateau, offering views that extend all the way to the Adriatic. Its foundation probably dates back to the Norman period, around 1140, as a military observation point. The structure consists of a central keep and 4 imposing circular corner towers. Its wild charm and scenic location have made it a perfect film set for internationally renowned films such as Lady Hawk and The Name of the Rose, and more recently, The Americans starring George Clooney. Fort Diamante, Liguria. It is one of the most characteristic forts of the defensive wall of Genoa. Completed in 1758 by the Republic of Genoa on the summit of Monte Diamante, at 667 meters above sea level, its dominant position over the Val Polcevera and Val Bisagno made it the first bastion against incursions from the north. In the spring of 1800, during the Austrian siege, the fort was the scene of violent fighting between French and Habsburg troops, in which the young poet Ugo Foscolo also participated. Today, it is a destination for hikers, who from its pentagonal structure can admire an exceptional panorama of the city and the Ligurian coast, all the way to Portofino on clear days. Miramare Castle, Trieste, Friuli Venezia Giulia. On the rocky promontory of Grignano overlooking the Gulf of Trieste, Miramare Castle stands. Built between 1856 and 1860 by Archduke Ferdinand Maximilian of Habsburg as a love nest to share with his wife Charlotte of Belgium, it is a luxurious noble residence that has preserved its precious original furnishings. Surrounded by a lush park with Italian gardens, it offers an enchanting view. Inside, the 20 rooms, including the sumptuous staterooms and private apartments, testify to the eclectic taste of the time. The couple's story, however, was tragic. Maximilian was killed in Mexico, and Carlotta, having lost her mind, was confined to the Castelletto, a smaller building in the park, which became her golden prison. Bard Castle, Aosta Valley. The Bard Fort is an imposing fortified complex that blocks the Dorobaltia Valley. Left almost intact since its reconstruction in the 19th century at the behest of the House of Savoy, it represents one of the best examples of a barrier fortress from the early 19th century. The fortress is made up of 3 main buildings located at different levels: the Opera Ferdinando, the Opera Vittorio, and at the top, the Opera Carlo Alberto. Today, the fort is a first-rate cultural center, hosting temporary exhibitions and permanent museums, and can be reached by futuristic panoramic elevators from the village of Bard. Its impressive architecture also caught the attention of Hollywood, becoming one of the locations for the Marvel film Avengers: Age of Ultron. Castel Sant'Angelo, Rome, Lazio. Also known as Hadrian's Mausoleum, Castel Sant'Angelo dominates the right bank of the Tiber. Its construction began in 135 AD at the behest of Emperor Hadrian as a tomb for himself and his family. Connected to the Vatican via the fortified corridor of the Paceto, the castle has had a unique history. From an imperial funerary monument, it has become a fortress, a prison, and a splendid Renaissance residence that even saw Michelangelo at work. Its current name comes from the legend that, during a plague, Pope Gregory the Great had a vision of the Archangel Michael lining his sword at the top of the mausoleum, signifying the end of the epidemic. Today, visiting its 5 floors, you can admire the frescoed papal rooms, the cells, and the large terrace with an unparalleled view of Rome. Torrechiara Castle, Parma, Emilia-Romagna. In the hills near Parma stands Torrechiara Castle, one of the best preserved 15th century manors in Italy. Built between 1448 and 1460 by Pier Maria Rossi, the castle is a magnificent example of architecture that combines defensive power, evidenced by 3 ring of walls and 4 corner towers, with the elegance of a noble residence, conceived as a love nest for himself and his lover, Bianca Pellegrini. Their passion is celebrated throughout the castle, particularly in the famous Camera d'Oro, frescoed by Benedetto Bembo, which narrates their idyll. Its romantic charm and imposing structure have captivated directors from all over the world, becoming the set of the famous film Lady Hawk. Brisighella Fortress, Emilia-Romagna. The Manfrediana fortress of Brisighella dominates the village of the same name from one of 3 characteristic selenite rock pinnacles. Built in 1310 by the Manfredi family, lords of Faenza, this fortification is a superb example of medieval military art. Passed for a short time to Cesare Borgia and then to the Venetians, who added the grandiose mail, it eventually became part of the Papal States. Today, the fortress houses the Man and Chalk Museum and offers an interactive multimedia trail, the Talking Stones, which tells the story of the place through voices and music. Its circular towers and vast inner courtyard transport visitors to another era. Castel del Monte, Puglia. A magical and mysterious place 60 kilometers from Bari. Castel del Monte is a 13th century fortress commissioned by Emperor Frederick II of Swabia on the Merge Plateau. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, it is famous for its octagonal plan, a masterpiece of medieval military architecture laden with symbolism. A tower, also octagonal, is grafted onto each of the 8 corners. The number 8, recurring throughout the structure, is a central element that has fueled endless theories. The octagon is thought to represent the intermediate figure between the square, the earth, and the circle, the sky, symbolizing the passage between the 2 worlds. Its location is designed to create particular plays of light and shadows during the solstices and equinoxes. More than a fortress, it is hypothesized that it was a temple of knowledge, a place dedicated to the study of science, synthesis of mathematical, geometric, and astronomical knowledge. Albornozian Fortress of Spoleto, Umbria. The Rocca Albornoziana dominates Spoleto from the Sant'Elia hill. Built starting in 1359 at the behest of Pope Innocent VI, it was the linchpin of the defensive system created by Cardinal Egidio Albornoz to re-establish papal authority in central Italy. Having become the residence of governors and papal legates, it was enriched with decorations, such as those visible in the Pinta Chamber. The fortress is also famous for having hosted Lucrezia Borgia, who at just 19 years old was appointed regent of the Duchy of Spoleto. After being transformed into a prison until 1982, today the fortress, with its 2 courtyards of arms and honor and 6 imposing towers, has returned to its former splendor and can be visited. Pandone Castle of Venafro, Molise dominating the village of Venafro. Pandone Castle has Samnite and Lombard origins, but it was the Pandone family who transformed it from a fortress to a sumptuous residence in the 15th century. Its most striking feature is the interior. Between 1522 and 1527, Count Enrico Pandone had the main floor frescoed with life-size images of his beloved horses. Each fresco shows the name, breed, age, and color of the animal's coat. Today, the castle houses the National Museum of Molise, offering a fascinating journey through art and history, from the Middle Ages to the Baroque, in a truly unique context. Sforza Castle, Milan, Lombardy. A symbol of Milan, the Sforza Castle has a complex history. Built in the 14th century by the Visconti family, it was destroyed and then rebuilt in 1450 by Francesco Sforza, who made it his residence. Under Ludovico il Moro, it became one of the most sumptuous courts in Europe, thanks to the genius of artists such as Bramante and Leonardo da Vinci, who frescoed several rooms here. In the following centuries, it became a military citadel under Spanish and Habsburg rule, so much so that it was seen by the Milanese as a symbol of tyranny. Only with the unification of Italy was the castle restored and transformed into a cultural center, becoming dear to the city. Today, it is one of the largest castles in Europe and houses important museums, including the Pinacoteca, the Egyptian Museum, and Michelangelo's last masterpiece, the Pietà Rondinini. Fénis Castle, Aosta Valley. Fénis Castle is the very image of the medieval fairy tale castle, situated on a gentle hill, devoid of natural defenses. It is thought to have been above all a prestigious administrative seat of the Chalant family. Its complex architecture, with a double crenellated wall and numerous towers, makes it one of the best preserved castles in Italy. The inner courtyard is a jewel, with a semicircular staircase and a magnificent fresco of St. George slaying the dragon. Visiting it, you can explore the armory, the chapel, and the Lord's rooms, imagining life in a distant era. The castle has also been used as a location for films such as Fracchia vs. Dracula, Aragonese Castle of Otranto, Puglia. This imposing sea fortress is the symbol of the easternmost city in Italy. Otranto Castle inspired the first Gothic novel in history, The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, 1764. Rebuilt by the Aragonese after the Turkish sack of 1480, it was later upgraded by the Spanish viceroys, who made it a masterpiece of military architecture. With a pentagonal plan and surrounded by a deep moat, today the castle is a lively cultural center, hosting exhibitions, events, and concerts. A visit to its dungeons, rich in history and mysterious legends, is an experience not to be missed. Swabian Castle, Trani, Puglia. Built starting in 1233 at the behest of Frederick II of Swabia, the Swabian Castle of Trani overlooks the sea directly, a few steps from the famous cathedral. Made of clear local stone, it was built on the model of the Crusader castles in the Holy Land, with a solid quadrangular plan. With the advent of gunpowder, it was modified to accommodate the new firearms. Today, visiting the castle, you can admire the two monumental halls from the Frederick era and enjoy spectacular views of the Adriatic, imagining the ships that once sailed to the east. Aci Castle, Catania, Sicily. In the seaside village of Aci Castel00, the Norman castle stands on a basalt rock cliff overlooking the sea, formed by an underwater volcanic eruption over 500,000 years ago. Built in 1076 by the Normans on a pre-existing Byzantine fortification, it became the residence of Frederick II of Aragon during the Sicilian Vespers. Its history is a succession of sieges and changes of ownership between the most important Sicilian noble families. Today, it houses a civic museum with artifacts ranging from prehistory to the Middle Ages and a small botanical garden. Ruffo Castle, Scilla, Calabria. Dominating the promontory of Scilla, Ruffo Castle majestically overlooks the Strait of Messina. It is the genius loci of the town, a place where myth and history intertwine. Its origins date back to the 5th century BC, but it was transformed into a fortress over the centuries, in particular at the behest of the Ruffo counts. Several times damaged by earthquakes and rebuilt, today the castle houses the Scilla Lighthouse and is a cultural center that hosts exhibitions and conferences, offering visitors a breathtaking view and a dive into the legend of Scilla and Charybdis. If you like more contents like this, please subscribe and hit a like.